Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Piyush and this is video number 17 in the series 28 days of easy Terraform. In this video we'll be doing another mini project and it will be based on Azure Web App, or also known as Azure App Service. We'll be creating a lot of resources through Terraform and I will share you everything, every single step till the end. And without any further ado, let's get started. So this is what we'll be doing. Basically, we'll create an Azure resource group first. So let me just, all right. So let's say we have our Azure resource group over here. Let's call it day 17 RG. Okay. Inside our resource group, we'll create an Azure resource. Okay. And Azure resource type would be app service plan. So let me create it over here. So that's an app service plan. App service plan will have the details of the app service that we'll be creating, like what type of machine it will be using, what type of performance it will give, the cost and everything will be dependent on app service plan. And we can have multiple app services within the same app service plan. So let's call it, a standard app service plan, P1 tier or whatever it is. I have to check it. Okay, so that's the app service plan, and inside that we'll create our app service or Azure Web App, in which we'll be deploying our application. So let's call it Web App. Now it will have two deployment slots, one that it comes with like by default. So let's call it prod, and we'll create another slot to do the deployment. So let's call it stage. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll deploy the different version of same application in both of these. So if you have heard about it, or if you have seen any of my video, it will be a blue green deployment. I have explained it very well in one of the videos. You can check it out. But for now, let's say this will be our blue app. Okay, so let's say it will have version 1.0, which is running your production version, which is running on production. And then you deploy another version of app in the stage environment as well. So let's call it 2.0, and it's a green app. Okay, so we'll create a default slot and then we'll create a staging slot to and we deploy another version of it. And then at the end, what we'll do is we'll do the swap between those two versions. Okay, so now blue will become green, green will become blue. And why is that necessary? It's to save the deployment time, it's to save the downtime that your live customers will be facing, and it's to do the quick switch over between an active and inactive deployment. So it's a blue green type of deployment. Okay, so I'll just write it down what all resources will be creating. So first we'll create a resource group. Okay, then an app service plan, and then we'll create an Azure Web App or Azure App Service. Inside that, we'll create a, let's call it production slot. Okay, and then we also create a staging slot. Then we do the deployment on both the slots, but we'll deploy different versions of application in both the slots. Okay, so that's the deployment part, and then we do the swap. So for swap also we add additional resource in the Terraform configuration. If you were doing it with a CI/CD pipeline, you actually create a separate stage for swap. So it will be based on a manual approval or a trigger or something that makes sure that this swap will happen only when everything else is working fine, only when the deployed version is working fine in the staging environment. Okay, so yeah, after that you will be seeing the changes. So after that we'll validate the changes on the web app. Okay, so we'll have a sample app that I have taken from the Terraform documentation. We'll deploy that sample app to this. There's a sort of blue green deployment we'll be doing. Okay, so let's start with that and let's see how it's done. Right, so I'm in my day 17 folder and I have my backend.tf and provider.tf taken from the day 15 video. So it's pretty much the same like what we have configured earlier. And I'll be using same resource group for tf state file, right? I don't have to recreate it. And then I'm using the same provider, Azure RM. Okay, and the same version of course. So in this folder I'm going to create a new file, main.tf, to create our resources, and we'll start with resource group. So resource, and then resource, no, Azure RM resource group. Okay, it's over here. Let's give it a name, rg, and let's create a variable first because we'll be using some prefix. So um let's call this as prefix, and let's give it a default value as day 17. Okay, and type is string. Even if we don't give the type, that's okay, it will take the any data type, so which is okay too, but let's just give it for the sake of giving it. Okay, now in Azure RM resource group, we have to provide name, location. Tags are optional, but name and location are mandatory. I'm sure we already know that because we have done it like at least 17 times till now. Okay, so let's give it a name, and name should start with prefix hyphen rg. Okay, so the way we use prefix is we create this, and let's call it var dot prefix hyphen rg. Okay, and this has to go inside double quotes, like everything has to go inside double quote, but I guess var dot prefix. Okay, so this, and then it says location. So location, let's give it a location. I'm gonna give Canada Central, or you can give any location that is closest to you, that's okay, right? So we have created a resource group. Now the next one is we need to create an app service plan. So resource, Azure RM, same provider, app service plan. Okay, so it says like there is a strike through to it, that means it's deprecated in the newer versions. So let's go to Azure documentation, and like I'm sure you already know it, but if in case you don't know, the way we look for anything in the documentation is we have to go to the provider. So let's say Azure RM is the provider. Okay, if you click over here, it will show you how you can use the provider. So this we have already configured in our provider.tf. Now we have to go to its documentation. So you click over here, documentation, and write your resource name in the filter. So resource for us is app service. Okay, so here it is, Azure App Service. So we need app service plan, app service slots, and everything. So but we'll start with the app service plan. Okay, here it is, app service plan. It says the resource has been deprecated in version 3 and will be removed in version 4. And it says Azure RM service plan. This is what you should be using. Okay, so let's see what we can take. Azure RM. It should be service plan, not app service plan. So let's give it service plan. Okay, so this is it is showing as valid. Okay, Azure RM app service plan, and let's give it a name, ASP app service plan. Now name is, again we'll start with prefix. Okay, name is prefix, and then let's call it ASP. That should be good. So it will be day 17 ASP. That should be the app service plan name. And okay, so there are many other fields, so let's take care of it one by one. Location should be what we have configured in resource group. So it should be Azure RM resource group dot rg dot location. Okay, so we are creating implicit dependency over here. And then the next is we have to provide a resource group name. Again, resource group name should also come from Azure RM resource group dot rg dot name. And then there is this field which is SKU. So because we'll be using deployment slots, so deployment slots is only available in either standard tier or premium tier. So we have to make sure that we are using either of those. So let's just copy it. Okay, but you can add this validation that app service plan tier has to be the standard or premium. You can add that. Okay, now it is still throwing some error. Let's see. It says OS type, SKU name. We have, okay, so maybe because they have not updated the documentation, or I'm not sure what the issue is, but it should be SKU name as per the documentation. Okay, now that error is SKU name. Okay, so let's remove this and let's see how it is expecting it. If I do SKU name and it says required string, okay, and if I search SKU name over here, say the SKU block documentation below. Let's see where it is. Let's go down. Okay, it supports tiers and size. So this is what we had earlier. And which provider version it is? It is, I guess, 4.12. We are using version 4.8, and like it should have been taken care of, but says SKU type. Okay, first let's see this one. So if I do SKU name, okay, SKU name is not there as per the documentation, but let's see. It says it has to be the tier size. Let's give it this one for now, and like we'll see once we run the Terraform plan what does it show. Okay, now it shows another mandatory field OS type, but it's not here. So let's run tf plan over here. First run tf init. Okay, let's run tf plan. Okay, so it says SKU are not expected here. Argument SKU name is required. Okay, are we looking at the same resource, Azure RM App Service Plan? No, we are using Azure RM Service Plan. I'm not sure if it would be there over here. So let's have a look. Okay, over here. So it has the new resource type as well. So this is good. Let's take this. Okay, and it says OS type Linux. SKU name is P1v2, which is Premium 1v2. Or we can take either of these values. So let's say it is valid in standard. So S1 should be good. Okay. So instead of this, SKU name is equal to S1 and OS type is Linux. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's create the next resource, which is Azure RM. Okay, let's add the keyword resource first. Okay, and now we have created app service plan. We'll need to create the app service now. So again, for app service there will be some new resource. Let's see first. App service plan is done. Now Azure RM app service. Okay, over here. Okay, again this has been deprecated. The newer version is Azure RM Linux web app and Azure RM Windows web app. So it has segregated Windows and Linux into different resource types. So let's use this one, Azure RM Linux web app. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this and we'll make the changes over there. So it has pretty standard fields like name, resource group name, location, service plan ID. It's the app service plan ID. So instead of example, our Azure RM service plan was ASP dot ID. Okay, over here app service plan location, you can take it from ASP or resource group. They both have the same location. So ASP dot location, and then the resource group. So resource group is rg.name, and the name is, let me copy this and let's add it over here. Now this web app name has to be unique because it will create a default domain name using the app service name. So let's call it web app. So it will be day 17 web app. Let's hope there will be no one else using the same name. But if you can add some random string as well. You can create one more variable, random pet, and use that random prefix or suffix over here. So you can make the changes if it throws any error. Let's see. Okay, so Linux web app is done. Now the next is, once you create the web app, it will create a deployment slot for you. So let's create that deployment slot. Azure RM App Service slot, I guess this one, which has been deprecated. It says when using deployment slot, the app setting will be overwritten. Wait. App service plan, and then Azure RM App Service, which is what we have just created. And then here is the slot, Azure RM App Service slot. Now we don't need these three fields for now because the app that will be deploying, it doesn't have a backend, it does not have a database, it's just a static front end web application. So we only need these things. So let's just copy this. Okay, so Azure App Service slot, this is the default production slot with which the app will be deployed. So let's give this a name. Let's call it slot 1. Okay, and name is, again, we take as prefix. Okay, and slot 1, day 17, slot 1. Now Azure App Service. So Azure App Service dot ASP. Oh, that was App Service plan. Azure App Service is example. No, I don't like this. So let's give it AS App Service. Okay, and now we can do AS dot name. Okay, Azure Resource Group, Azure RM Resource Group dot RG dot name, Azure RG dot location, and RG dot name, and App Service Plan ID. So it's ASP dot ID. Okay, so this is App Service slot 1. Okay, now we'll be creating another slot. Let me see. Okay, so it will create the app with a single slot. So that's what we need for now. So let's just run tf plan. There is some error. It says the managed resource ASP has not been declared. Azure RM App Service Plan, where it is. Let's see which line, 35. Okay, App Service Plan ID. And it says it's not been declared by Azure RM Service Plan because the resource name has been changed. So Azure RM Service Plan.asp.id. Okay, and I guess for this one as well, it should be Azure RM Linux Web App.as.name. Okay, let's run tf plan again. Okay, now it says resource has been suppressed by this. Will no longer receive update and will be removed. Okay, but we have not used this resource. Why it is throwing the error? Why it is actually, it's just the warning, but even though we have used the newer names, why it is throwing the warning? Let's see. It says at line 30, which is Azure RM App Service slot dot slot 1, and in that app service, the Azure RM App Service slot. Okay, so this resource has also been deprecated. So let's see what's the new one. Sure, RM app service lot. I don't. Mm, 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 mm. If we go to this one and app service plan, web app. Okay, so it's Azure RM Linux web app slot. They have changed a lot of things in the newer version, but they have not removed the previous version from the documentation. So now they have both the versions over here. You see, it has app service and it has Linux app service as well. So like even though it will not you will not face an issue if you use the previous one, but they'll be deprecated in near future in this fourth version of provider itself. So it's better if we use the newer version. So it says it has to be this Azure Linux web app slot, and it does not have a lot of fields. It just have a name and app service ID. So app service ID is web app, which is web app dot ID. Okay, let's remove these things. App service ID is equal to Azure RM Linux web app dot as dot ID. I think this one. And it should have the site config block as well, even though it is blank, but it should have the block. Okay, let's run tf plan. Okay, now I don't have any warning, I don't have any errors, so I think this should be good. Let's run tf apply and then we'll take care of rest of the steps. Okay, so tf apply. Now what we'll do is we'll also fork a default a deployment, a sample deployment application, so that we can deploy it. Oh, it threw an error because it says day 17 rg already exists. I might have created it earlier. So it is what, destroying. Okay, let's run tf destroy hyphen auto approve. Let's just clean up everything, and then we'll also see over here if we have anything. So resource groups, day 17 rg, it's there. It has app service ID. This I might have created earlier, but let's see. I think it won't be able to destroy it even though it found it, but it was not created by Terraform. So it found it because it was with the same name. So let me just delete it manually from here. Delete resource group and the resources within it. Okay, let me hit refresh, and yeah, it's gone now. So let's continue. Let's run Terraform apply again, and let's see if it's not throwing any error. We can do the rest of the steps while it is doing this. It's creating the resource group. Okay, let it create. Now let's go to GitHub repo, and there'll be one GitHub repo that we need to fork. Okay, I guess I might have already forked it. So go to repositories, Terraform sample, blue green. So this is what I have forked from this repo. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to go to this link. Okay, and it is provided by Azure. So you fork this. Okay, choose an owner. Like for me, the fork already exists, but give it a name, and then uncheck this copy from master because we need all the branches. I'll tell you why. And then uncheck this and then create the fork. Okay, simple. So once you do that, a fork will be created, something like this. So now it has an application with one version deployed as blue, one version deployed as green in the separate branches. Now we have to deploy this once we have our application running. So let's track the progress over here. It's still creating. Let me pause the recording. Okay, it's done. Let's check the progress over here. So if you hit refresh, oops, it's not here. Why? Come on. Should have been created by now, right? So let's go to this resource group. Okay, here it is, day 17-rg. And if you go that, there is an app service plan, there is a web app, and there is a deployment slot. So if you go to app service, inside that, go to deployments and then deployment slots on the left side, you will see a deployment slot created for you already. It's still refreshing it. So let me just do this. Okay, so you see day 17 web app, this is the default endpoint of the application once you create it, and this is the slot that we have created. So let's call this a staging slot or the pre-prod DR, whatever you want to call it, the deployment slot. So currently the traffic is directed 100% to this endpoint. Okay, so let's say if you go to overview and take the DNS from here, there should be a link provided over here. It's still taking its sweet time. Oh, you can do it from here as well, browse. Okay, so it's starting up. It's not fully up yet. Let's give it few more seconds. It's still warming up. Okay, I told you to give it few more seconds, but I am just restless, can't help it, sorry. Okay, come on, be done with it already. Yeah, let's wait for a few more seconds. Oops, I cannot. Okay, I'm gonna pause the recording now. Okay, finally it's up. So if you click on browse or click on this default domain, this will show you the same URL. So now it should show the default page for the, I guess, .NET application. I guess it was, yeah, by default it will take the .NET application runtime. So let's see. Okay, still coming up. It's okay. So if you go to deployment center, let's deploy the sample application over to it now. Okay, so let's select the source code, which is in GitHub. We have forked the repo, and you can build it with GitHub Actions, or you can just build it with web apps default build pipeline. So if you could click over here, it says app service build service. So this is what I'm gonna use. Okay, signed in, and then your organization. Let's use this. Let's select your repository. For me, it should be somewhere. Okay, over here. Select the branch. Now it has a couple of branches, as I've told you, and each branch has multiple version, has a different version. So I'm gonna select this one first, or let's select the master version first. Okay, and then hit save. Now it will deploy the application that is there in the master branch to the default application endpoint that we have just seen. So once it is deployed, you can view the logs as well from here. It takes roughly 3-4 minutes, I guess. So I might have to pause the recording again. Okay, so I'm getting these logs, but it's in the status failed. So let's see, have a look. If we click on that and you click over here, show logs, scroll down, and here is the error. Basically it says platform.net version 2.0 is unsupported. Supported version is 3 and above. 3, 6, and I see a lot of them, but it's somehow using version 2 because we have not provided any version details, right? While we created our application, it took some default version, and I tried to change it from here from configuration, but looks like it did not apply the changes. So over here, if you see, it's .NET 8. Still it is taking, from somewhere it is taking .NET version 2. Now after this, I haven't restarted the application. Maybe that's why. Let's see if there is anything else. App setting is blank. Okay, and if we go over here and if we restart the app, okay, it says restarted, and if we go back to deployment center and try to redeploy it again. Let's see if we are still getting the same error. I'm not sure if it's gonna redeploy it again. I'm because I'm also using this deployment center for the first time. So let's see. I guess the app is still coming up. Okay, so let's try to redeploy it. I guess this should be it. Okay, so if we click on sync, perform a redeploy operation. Okay, so this is what's gonna redeploy the app. So let's try to hit OK and let's see the logs now. Okay, so this was older error at 4:08 p.m. Let's hit refresh. Okay, it triggered it again at 4:11 and hopefully this should not fail this time. Okay, by the way, if you want to know from where you can change the runtime version, so if we go back, yeah, over here you see in your site config, you can provide the details .NET framework version, choose 8 or 9 that should be supported. SCM type should be GitHub because that's what we are using. And you can add additional fields as well as per site config. Let's see, where is the blog site config? Logs, HTTP logs. Okay, over here. So it has ACR if your code is there, or it also has auto swap, slot name, different other fields, .NET Core version. Okay, so you see, I think it was using version 2.0. That's what it says. But let's see. Okay, hopefully, please do not fail now. Okay, it's still fetching changes. Come on. That's a lot of time to fetch the change. I guess it is running these two tasks parallelly. If you click on that, here is the build. This is running the build. Waiting for resource. Okay, now it is using version 8. Okay, so this time it worked because I changed the version from configuration like I have shown you. But as I've told you, you can change it from here as well, from the site config inside the app service. Okay, here. Okay, you can make these changes as well. But let's hope it if it works this time. So still running build. No news is a good news. Let's wait. Okay, and it has extracted the .NET version 8. It is using it now to compile the code. Let's see. All right, so finally, after spending 2 days into it, it is finally successful, and I'll show you how. So right now, as you can see, the status is success, and if I click on browse to the default endpoint of app service, you see this is our app and it's showing nothing, but it has a blue background. So this is how they have created the app to show the difference between different versions of application deployed using different branches. Okay, so this is our blue version which is hosted on the primary slot. Okay, now what did I do to fix this issue? I actually switched it back to the previous version of the provider. Okay, so this was our file that we were using, right? And I tried a lot of things. I tried updating .NET version, passing through site config. I tried updating it from the environment itself. It didn't work. It was throwing me unsupported error. And then I found many open GitHub issues related to these new resource types, Azure RM Linux web app, and how they are not compatible with the certain versions of .NET. So I spent almost 2 days into it, but then I finally gave up, and then I understood it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet to be used. So I created a backup of it and I created a new file. And with that, I have used the previous resource names such as Azure RM App Service Plan, Azure RM App Service, and so on, right? So what we did in the beginning of the video, I have reused it. So I have set SKU as standard, size is S1, and then okay, same like rest everything is same. and then I removed the app setting site config because it was part of the newer version. Okay, now after this, once I applied the changes, it still shows the deprecated warning, but it's just a warning. It's just showing that these resources has been suppressed, and it will be available in this release, but it will be no longer receiving updates. But it is working at the moment, and the newer versions are not working for some of the application. Let's say if you are deploying maybe a Node.js application, it would work, but maybe some legacy .NET applications, these are not working due to many compatibility issues. Okay, so that's why I have used the previous versions for now. Okay, so after that, like I have deployed the app um, from here, like what I have shown you earlier. So there is the source. Let's do one more thing. Let's add one more thing to it. Let's disconnect it from here and delete this deployment. Okay, and we'll do the deployment through Terraform. Okay, let's do that. um mm, mm. but the work is not completed yet. We just deployed into primary slot, we have to deploy it in secondary slot, and then we also have to do the swap as well. Okay, so let's do that. Once this is done, okay, it says successfully disconnected. Now I don't have any app over here deployed, and if I refresh this, it should show the default .NET page, or it is taking from the cache. Okay, let's, okay, I guess it's deployed already, so it's not reverting the changes back. But how can I delete the deployment? That's okay, we can deploy the newer version and see. Okay, so for the deployment, there is another resource type. If you go to this page, okay, so over here it's Azure RM App Service source control, so we can copy this and make our changes. Okay, I'm still not sure if it's gonna work with the previous version or it's just for the Linux web app, but let's try. Doesn't hurt to try. Okay, so let's call it SCM, and app ID would be your Azure RM App Service dot as. Okay, and we are deploying it in the slot 1 and 2. So let's try this first, app service as ID. Okay, and then here you have to paste your repo URL, which is, where it is. Okay, this is my public repo, so you can fork your own repo or give this, that's okay. And I'll paste it over here. Okay, branch is master. So this is for the primary slot, and then I'll do the same for the secondary slot. I just have to update this part, app ID. So this should be Azure RM App Service slot, which is dot slot, and then ID. Hopefully this should work, and let me change this name as well. It has to be unique. Okay, and the branch is also different. So branch, I can take it from here. Here is the branch name. App service working, do not merge. All right. Okay, let's see what it's gonna do now. I'm just gonna directly apply the changes. Ideally it should deploy on those two slots, primary slots and the staging slots that we have, and then we'll add, if it works, god forbid, if it works, then we'll add the another step to do the swap. But first, oh, it does not work. Okay, it says okay, that's the warning. That's okay, but what is the error? App ID is equal to, okay, slot, it does not take slot, so we cannot deploy to slot, or what? Let's have a look over here. So app ID is the web app. Okay, branch, repo. Okay, runtime stack, node version, image, GitHub actions, ID, SCM type. Okay, yeah, it does not have. Oh, okay. So there is a different service for the slot. It's over here. App service control slot. Okay, It would have been really nice if they had done it in one single application, but that's okay. So I'll just change the name. Rest, it has slot ID, repo URL, and branch. Okay, so this is this. Um, Instead of app ID, it has slot ID, repo URL, and branch. Okay, now let's run it again. Okay, to add. Okay, it says apply completed, and this is just the deprecated resource warning. So let's go over here and let's see. So we have these two slots. If I go to deployment center, it's still running in the background. Yeah, it's still running in the background, so it will take some time. But the way we can check it from here, or overview. Okay, and if we browse, that's your slot 1, and there'll be the details of slot 2 as well. Just wait for a second. Okay, so that's the default domain, which is slot 1, and I guess it's still coming up. And okay, so slot 1 is up over here, blue, and the second one should be green because it's from a different branch. So let's take the endpoint of your slot. Should be here somewhere. Or you can go to deployment slots and click over here and then browse. Okay, so this should be a slot 2 once the deployment is complete. Let's wait for that. I guess still going on. You can check the logs from here. So this is the default login page for a .NET application. It's not deployed yet, and it's still running the deployment. You can see the logs from here. Okay, running deployment commands. Okay, it's doing its thing, whatever it wants to do. Like, we don't want to see any errors over here, so let's just pause the video for a few seconds. Once this is deployed, it should be green over here. All right, so this is also successful, and this is what we did from Terraform now. Okay, so now our deployment is also automated through Terraform. So this is our demo app 1, which is the blue app. This is the demo app 2, which is the green app. Now we'll do the swap, and slot 2 demo app, or the demo app 2, will become blue, and app 1 will become green. Okay, let's see how it's done. So if we go back over here, and we need to add another resource. So let's see the Terraform documentation once. The resource type should be let's see, active slot. This one, Azure RM web app active slot. Okay, and it's over here. We just have to provide the slot ID. That's it. Okay, so let's just copy it. Okay, and let's give it active. Okay, and slot ID is Azure RM dot slot service slot dot id. Okay, and let's hit Terraform apply, and let's see the magic now. So that's the last step. I promise I'm not gonna drag this video longer than this. We already had spent a lot of time in this because we were doing troubleshooting on the go. I didn't want to delete the part in which there were errors, or in which there were some issues. I want, even though I do it in the background sometimes, the troubleshooting, because as I've told you, like, sometimes it takes a couple of days to fix the issue. even even I do that, so I make sure that I share the reason what I did. I share the steps that I have taken to mitigate the issue, and how do you do that as well, because if I'm facing the issue, there are high chances you will also be facing the issue if you are following this video along with me, right? So I make sure that you don't face it, but in case you face it, here's how I solve it. Here's how you can solve it as well. Okay, it's still creating the active slot. So once that is done, okay, let's do one thing. Let's keep the window side by side so that you will see the changes. Okay, and there is this one. Okay, blue, green. Okay, so these should be reversed once the changes are applied. So let's hit refresh on this. Okay, see, it's done. It should have been completed. It says it's still creating, but it actually did the changes. So you see now this is slot 1, it become blue, and now this one, okay, this is your default slot, this should become green if I hit refresh. Do you think that will happen? Okay, let's see. All right, it's done. Now this is how we have swapped the slot. If you wanted to do this manually from Azure Web App, let me show you how it can be done. So basically you go to your deployment slots, okay, and just have to hit swap. That's it. Swap, and you select the source, select the target, and then start the swap. That's how you do it. But if you want to do it from Terraform, I've shown you how you can do that. And as I told you before, this step you usually keep it separate from the main configuration, so that the reason why we are doing it to save the downtime and to minimize the impact on the live users or the applications. So we would probably want to keep this as a separate step in our CI/CD pipeline. It doesn't matter which tool we are using, and it is usually governed by, let's say, a manual approval, or there is a trigger that this step should be triggered at once a certain condition is satisfied. Okay, so that is done. That is all part of this video, and do not forget to do the destruction of all the resources, because it's gonna cost you a few dollars if you don't do that. And it's a best practice to just delete the resources once you are done with it. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon with the next video. Another amazing mini project will be covering in the next video. Till then, take care and make sure you complete the comments and like target, so that I should be able to publish the next video. So thank you and have a good day.